Shalom Akim, Kahala and Noy Habashim Yashabashan Hakudash and double on Instagrams and apostles. Thought I've shot for the strength and all to make this video. And Yaratazar that this builds up your mind as well. But this is really the part 2 to the other video which I named the Testing the Blackouts, Prepare Thy Mind. This video really should be short because the main points been proven or been reported in the other video in the part 1. But this one's just really on speculation on the cause of those blackouts, man. Which again, really, this is just Esau warming up to the next major event. The Klaus Schwab as well was talking on it, I think a few years back. On the next potential event being related to cyber attacks, man. So this could be a testing for that. And in the previous video, I was talking about I was talking about in Nigeria where normally, they got NEPA, which I think let me just search real quickly over here. It actually stands for something. I searched it up, but then, it escaped my mind. It's like National Electrical something. Oh yeah, so NEPA, which means National Electric Power Authority. So of course, there's this thing in Nigeria where, when the power turns back on, they say up NEPA, or if the power goes down, if they turn it off, they say down NEPA or something. It's like a little play thing that goes on there in Nigeria, man. But the point is, it could be days or even a whole week for electricity to be off, man. So Jacob over there, Judah, Levi, and the few of Benjamin that may be there as well. They're used to, of course, having wells in their compounds, man, to fetch water. They're used to having buckets as well because, they don't rely on the electrical grid because they know it's unreliable. Because it turns on, it turns off. You know how it is, man. You know how it is. So, the point is, with my fair share of experience there, man, that's how it be. You go always gather water so that you have water to have a bath with, big buckets. You got a well in the compound with a bucket to get some water from it too. That was an experience in itself. But people who live in countries where the electrical grid isn't turned off wouldn't know how to really prepare for it or even what to do in that time to come. So I did mention about what's it called? Oh yeah, this video being like a causation type of thing, where what's actually the cause of just the so-called blackouts. But really, this is just all speculation and that, divert people's attentions. Because the real thing is Esau's agenda. It's all playing to Esau's agenda, man. So let's play a little bit of this, get a few presets, then I'm going to close out, man. Nigeria had to fetch water. What else did you have to do as well? Yeah, you had to make sure your phone was charged, of course. Because, it was at any moment, the lights could turn off at any moment, whether it be nighttime, it could be daytime, man. Even you had to make sure that the windows were open with mosquito nets, of course. Yeah, because it was hot over there. But yeah, that's just, a little experience of mine. Let's continue.
The possible explanations of what happened with the Professor of Aerospace and Engineering, Sinead O'Sullivan. One explanation, Sinead, is this issue about some kind of atmospheric pressure drop-off. Talk us through that explanation.
Yeah, no, this is an incredibly rare atmospheric phenomenon. It's called the induced atmospheric vibrations, which is just as weird as it sounds. So basically, this potentially could be down to very, very large and extreme temperature differences within layers of the atmosphere. So we're not talking about, people kind of said, well, it couldn't be that because it's not even that hot in Madrid. We're not talking about the difference in temperature between Madrid and Lisbon. We're talking about the difference in temperature between 1 kilometer up to 8 kilometers in the atmosphere, where these massive high voltage power lines tend to move energy from one country to another. So if you have at 1,000 kilometers 5 degrees, and then at 2,000 kilometers minus 15 degrees, that 20 degree, and they think it could have been around 20 to 25 degrees difference, is massive, because usually you only get 6 to 7 degrees of difference. So that difference in temperature creates very volatile air that would have physically moved and created oscillations in these power lines. Now, the grid is extremely sensitive, so anything that goes physically out of synchronization is going to cause big issues.
Sorry, this might be a really stupid question, but there are power lines. These are power lines that are much lower to the ground, but the pressure difference is much higher?
Some of these power lines can be very high up in the air. So not only, when I say 1,000 to 2,000 meters, that doesn't necessarily have to be, that could be above sea level.
Right.
Now, for example, I mean, if you imagine these power lines, I don't know if you've seen them before, they're really tall. And so even the ability to move with wind or other conditions at that height is actually massive. It's not like being on the ground. These things are actually very high up.
And so I guess the question then, as we heard from the previous guest, he didn't feel it was right to blame anyone. But is this something that could have been predicted, or at least the need for these power lines to be more resilient is a legitimate question for voters to ask in the years ahead?
I think so, because, again, it's a very rare phenomenon. Yet we did actually see something in Spain, Portugal, France around 2000.
So really the point is, they're saying it's some kind of a major temperature difference which has caused the failure of the electrical grid because of the temperature differences, from one temperature of a certain region to another. In terms of, when transferring that electricity. Of course, I'm just breaking it down based on the understanding that I got right now from this video. But this is one thing that they're saying, they call it the rare atmospheric phenomenon. So that could be one reason that's what they're saying. But really, what I believe is it's all part of Esau's agenda where, they did it on purpose, to get people in the state where it's that, okay, get that fear going. Which really all in all, if you break it down, if you turn off the electrical grid, you can't really have any payments anymore. You can't have any payments anymore, through the mobile phones, through the cards. People got to use so-called cash. But eventually, let's say a few days, a few weeks, maybe even a month of having no electricity, that's when, that feeling of Jacob's trouble is going to be there. That's when the fear is going to be induced. People are going to be fearing. They won't know what to do. Essentially, especially those who haven't experienced it before. But yeah, let's get a scripture. So this is Jeremiah 30 and verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So of course, these are just the beginning, man. As the scripture says in Matthew 24, the beginning of sorrows. Where people ain't gonna have access to their comforts anymore, which many of their comforts require electricity. The phone, YouTube entertainment, PlayStation, Xbox, gaming, the computer as well for work as well. All of that, most businesses are reliant on electricity. So that also goes into that precept where it says where the grinder sees as well. So I'm going to get that too. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Let's see. I don't want to make this video too long. I got another clip as well to play. So Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, that's talking about the workers stopping, because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened, man. No hope for the youth. But the point is, the grinders cease, which means the workers are there's gonna essentially an increase in unemployment. Not many people are gonna be able to work, and all of that stuff. That's all coming with this cyber attack that they're using. But let me move on to the next video. They're saying it's some rare atmospheric phenomenon, but really the truth is, of course, Esau's dabbling in this. And either way, it's still the Most High's will, whether it be a rare atmospheric phenomenon or it's Esau tampering with the electrical grid for his own agenda. All right, let's see. Let me get to the next video. Alright, so the name of this video, it says cause of major power outage in parts of Spain and Portugal still unknown. They're saying it's unknown, but watch, they're gonna say it's really a cyber attack, and a woman's gonna speak on it.
The sound of relief rings out in parts of Spain and Portugal after being cut off. Some are now reconnected. But authorities warn it could take weeks to fully restore. Monday saw carnage in the Spanish capital. No traffic lights at this roundabout makes for an almost lawless scene as cars and pedestrians navigate the disorder. It's a picture replicated across the country and in Portugal too. Both nations were entirely cut off from power. As the train network grounded to a halt, some stranded passengers in Valencia walked the rest of their journeys. Railway lines deserted and phone lines dead. By lunchtime, office workers poured onto the streets, dazed and disconnected.
We were working very well. Suddenly the computer went down. We thought it was a normal blackout, as it happens sometimes, but then we heard it was a cyber attack. This was through information through the poor connection we had to the internet. After that, we stopped having any comms, no access.
You see, so for that short moment of which they were able to receive news, with a low connection, to their mobile network, they received news that it was a cyber attack, man. So on one end, they're saying it's a rare atmospheric phenomenon. Another end, they're saying it's a cyber attack. But of course, they're saying it's all under investigation. At the end of the day, Esau's got something to achieve, man, and he's running out of time. So he's got to get the momentum going, and this is part of it too. This is part of it, man. But yeah, let me Yaratazama link this to the previous video and this video as well. And yeah, I'm gonna close it out right now. Let's get a precept. This is Psalms 64 and verse 6. They search out iniquities, which this is referring to Esau, Edom. Hold on, let me see. Verse 6, hold on. Yeah, verse 6 is the point, but let me start from verse 1. So Psalm 64 and 1. Hear my voice, O power, Yahweh, in my prayer, preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. These cyber attacks, the demic during 2021, 2022. They commune of laying snares, traps, privily. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search, making these deep plans as well, researching and, having their scientists and, men of research, I'll say, for the lack of a better term, in order to assist them in the execution of their plans, which is obviously a medieval matter. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. It's like, okay, there's always an inward incentive, an evil incentive behind whatever they're trying to do. It may seem positive on the surface level, but within, if you go deeper, that it's an evil matter that they're developing. There's an evil incentive, such as, the juice that goes up the arms. They may say that on surface level, they say there ain't nothing wrong with it. You can just take it, poke it in your arm. But all in all, with all the doctors that came out with the research there, risking their lives, some of them even died. I think there was one of them that actually died, man. He was pretty hot on that, on the news, on exposing what the pokey did. You should know what I'm talking about. During 2021, 2022, 2023. Really 2020 to 2022 was the peak of it. All right, so yeah, that's it, man. Esau is running things right now, man. He's trying to build that momentum. And of course, cyber attacks is one way. So, that's why we we gotta keep our minds in that state of always being aware of these things, man. Praying to Yahweh Hashem Yeshua protection and to give us wisdom to know how to move in these times as well. So yeah, I'm gonna say, Shalom, Yahweh Hashem Yeshua Barakatah, and Yaratazah, that this has increased your awareness and of course built you up in wisdom. So Shalom.